Deontay Wilder versus Derek Chisora was a brutal and amazing fight. Now, Deontay landed his big right hand, and Derek Chisora also landed his big right hand. Derek Chisora put Deontay under so much pressure, and he landed vicious body shots. And Derek even turned southpaw at times. And when Deontay let his hands go, you could hear the power. You could hear the thunderous power. There were exchanges. There was bravery. And this was a brutal fight that was very entertaining. So I'm going to analyze the fight round by round. So going into this fight, there were two questions that stood out. There were multiple questions, but these two questions stood out to me. Can Deontay Wilder land the right hand? That was the first question. And can Derek Chisora land the looping right hand? And what impact would it have? So in round one, Derek is moving forward. He has absolutely no fear. He is a warrior. Wilder is like touching with the left, and it seems clear that he's trying to set up the right hand counter. So Wilder is trying to walk Derek Chisora onto the right hand, and Derek does get on the inside and starts to work the body. And when Derek does get on the inside, he's explosive. He's really explosive, and you can see that he has clear intent. And Derek is like using the cross-arm defense. He's getting very low, and this makes it hard to hit him cleanly because he's taking the power out of the punches. Now, in this round, Derek Chisora is setting a scorching pace. So at the end of rounds, think of this. Derek is breathing heavily. He's breathing heavily, but in that round, he's using intelligent pressure. Now, Deontay is reacting, trying to get that backhand off, but he needs to establish the jab. And Derek also needs to keep using the jab and keep a lower center of gravity. So in the second round, Deontay Wilder is like using the left hook, but he's shooting it a bit wide. Probably be better if he shortened it up, but this is good because he's clearly trying to set the left hook as a trap to distract from the right hand. Now, Derek Chisora is actually jumping in, and he needs to be careful, so he's like jumping in to try and land some of his punches. Now, Deontay lands a big right hand, and Derek is hurt, but Derek is very experienced, and he's getting under the punches. He's getting very low, so he's taking some of the power out of the punches. Now, at this point, Derek turns southpaw. So he turns southpaw, and he needs to be very careful when he's in this position, but this gives him some leverage on the right jab and the right hook. Deontay is now trying to punch through the target as opposed to at the target, and he looks very, very dangerous. Wilder is growing confidence, and he's letting the right hand go. And that was one of the questions. Would Deontay have the confidence to let the right hand go? So at the end of this round, think of this. Derek is breathing heavy. He's still breathing heavy. Deontay, he needs to probably change the directory or the trajectory of the right hand. So he's throwing it through the target, but he probably needs to throw it short. And Deontay is trying to land the uppercut. And Derek needs to be careful. He needs to be very careful when he's in that southpaw position. Now, yes, it gives him the angle for the right hook and the right jab, but you could argue it also makes him more susceptible to Deontay's powerful backhand. So in round three, Derek is still putting on pressure, and it's effective. He's closing the distance. And he's quite quick. Despite coming in heavy, his feet are quite quick. Deontay is trying to use the jab, which is probably a very good idea. And Derek is using a lot of head movement, and this is clearly messing up Deontay's timing. And like I said, Derek's feet is closing the distance quickly, and he's eager to get on the inside. He has no fear of this phenomenal power. Now, there's a subtle variation from Deontay here, because before he's just throwing the right hand and he's throwing it through the target. But now he's throwing a straight right and then a left hook. So he's throwing like a combination. And Wilder is trying to throw that counter right hand, and it's a dangerous counter right hand. It's a type of right hand that could end the fight. Now, at the end of the round, Derek is complaining about his eye, and this is quite concerning. And at this point, Deontay Wilder just takes the initiative and just explodes with some vicious, vicious punches. In fairness, Derek stays calm and he just weaves under the shots. He's got that low center of gravity, that cross-arm defense. Now, at the end of the round, think of this. Derek's team, they need to work on that eye problem. They need to establish what went on there. Derek is starting to manage his breathing, though, and that's good, and that's his experience. And Derek needs to maintain his defensive responsibilities while being offensive. Deontay is showing confidence with his power, and that's really good, but he needs to have an educated left hand, and he needs to change the trajectory of the straight right and use those combinations and use that momentum. And by the way, so far, it's a tremendous fight. So we're heading into round 4, and Deontay is throwing a vicious counter right. I mean, literally, you can just hear the punches. And he's now trying to time Derek into the counter. Now, Derek, again, is breathing heavily, but he's still putting on that phenomenal pressure. He's really got a high work rate here. And Derek is going southpaw. Again, that gives him the southpaw jab. He did this a lot against Usyk. Now, Derek lands a big right hand, a big right hand, and the crowd erupts. And a second big right hand gets Deontay's attention. Now, there's some good things here, because the good thing for Chisora is that now he's getting the range to land that big right hand. But also Deontay is showing that he has some punch resistance by taking not only one big right hand, but also 2 big right hands in succession. So at the end of round 4, Derek is, he's catching Deontay with the big right, and he needs to continue with that, work behind the jab, work behind the feint, continue with the body work, because he's been effective with the body work, but he's breathing heavy because he's working really hard. So he needs to stay defensively responsible, especially when he's closing the gap with his feet. Deontay, I feel he can do a few things. He needs to try and take a dominant position, and he really needs to use the jab effectively. If he uses the jab effectively, he could steal the rounds, and this will create more opportunities for the backhand. Okay, now we're heading into round 5. And Deontay, now it feels he's trying to place the right hand. So he's trying to intelligently place the right hand, reducing the power and focusing on the accuracy. But Derek is making adjustments. He's starting to ride the counter right hand, and he's maintaining the head movement and the low center of gravity. Derek is actually finding the body. So he's closing the distance, and then he's ripping straight to the body. And this may be an important investment as the fight develops. Deontay is still waiting too much. He's negating the jab. He's touching with it, but he's waiting for that counter opportunity, maybe waiting too much on that counter opportunity. Now, Derek lands a big right hand. And what I'm noticing here is that when Derek is letting that big right hand go, Deontay's defensive reflexes are letting him down, because he's landing these punches flush. And credit to Deontay Wilder, because he's showing that he still has punch resilience, because Derek Chisora can punch. Now, there's a point here where Chisora falls on the floor. He's covered in sweat. He gets back up, and at this point, I'm just thinking to myself, Derek is so brave, because he's literally just walking into the power. Of course, he's doing it in an intelligent manner, but this is allegedly one of, or not the hardest puncher of all time, and he's just moving forward, really pushing Deontay Wilder back. And this fight, I think, is exceeding expectations. Now, at the end of round 5, think of this. Deontay, again, I've said this over and over again, he needs to use the jab, not just to measure it, but he needs to double it, he needs to feint. And I think he should perhaps take a bit of a risk and try and take a dominant position and start introducing combinations while being defensively responsible. Derek needs to keep presenting a small target, keep being focused, perhaps increase the double jab. I think the double jab and the feint can keep setting up that right hand, and he needs to keep the pressure educated. So in round 6, Deontay throws a nice counter right hand. It's fast and it's short. And actually, I'm quite impressed with Deontay Wilder's counter punching. Even though he's relying on it a little bit too much, negating the jab, it is still impressive. Now, Deontay at one point plants his feet and he lets his hands go, and you can hear the power. He is so dangerous when he does this, and he should do more of this. Derek, to his fairness, is being defensively responsible. He sees everything. He's an experienced fighter, and he's getting under the punches. And Derek now is putting his head on Deontay Wilder's chest, and he really needs to do more of this. He needs to make Deontay uncomfortable, put the head on the chest, rip to the body, and really start creating those explosive moments while being defensively responsible. Now, Deontay Wilder at one point, he tries to change the angle. He tries to do some little, he does some creative stuff with his feet to try and introduce a new angle for the right hand. And this type of creativity increases the risk, but it also increases the chances of landing the right hand. And also what we see here is that Derek has a cut. He has a cut. I think it's over his left eye. So that will obscure his vision of seeing the right hands, which is quite disturbing. Now, Deontay is consistently looking for the right hand counter, and he should do that, but he just needs to introduce that jab more. And don't just use it as a touch. Start throwing it with some authority. Give it some different looks. Now, Deontay lands a truly great right hand, and what's the difference here is that before Deontay was trying to punch through the target, but now he's punching at the target and he's throwing the right hand short. And he catches Derek Chisora clean. Again, Derek Chisora is in that defensive position, but the way that Derek was able to absorb that punch is truly, truly remarkable. Now, at the end of the round, think of this. Deontay, to me, I think he's showing some improvement. He needs to maintain his confidence in the right hand, because he's building that confidence, he's letting his right hand go, and now he's changing the trajectory, he's throwing it short. So there's some good things here, but he needs to pick up the jab because these rounds, they're close, and he's relying a bit too much on that counter opportunity. He also, when he gets that momentum to start throwing those dangerous punches, that is impressive, and I think that will impress the judges. Derek, again, needs to maintain his defensive responsibilities. And I think either a double jab or a feint that could set up that overhand right. So I think he needs to focus on that. But he definitely needs to keep closing the distance, maintain his defensive responsibilities. And like I said, this is a great fight. So in round 7, Deontay is using that measuring jab. And of course, the measuring jab, it obscures your vision and it can set up the backhand. So he's relying on that. He's still not snapping the jab, though, which is a problem. Derek is getting close, though. And when he is getting close, he's landing the body shot. So there's a good thing here. So phase 1, Derek's feet are quick enough to get in position. But phase 2, he's going straight to the body, which I think is good. He's closing the distance and landing effectively. Now, Wilder then lands one of those right hands, and then he lets his hands go. And let me tell you, the power of these punches is just terrifying. When he gets momentum and he lets his right hand go, you can hear the power. So when he starts letting his hands go, it just feels terrifying. Now, Derek is starting to jump in with the hook. He needs to be careful with that because Deontay is looking for the counter. And if you jump in and you get countered into the right hand, that can be really dangerous. Deontay is also trying the uppercut, but he's throwing it technically as opposed to throwing it with some real force. So at the end of the round, think of this. Derek needs to keep this one on the inside. He needs to get on the inside, perhaps stay on the inside for longer, use that weight advantage, put his head on his chest. And Deontay is measuring with the jab, but he needs to start snapping the jab. I think he needs to really commit to the jab. And if he does commit to the jab, this will set up the backhand. He needs to do it behind the feint so he doesn't get countered. But this will create more opportunities for the backhand because everything is really coming behind the counter. Again, Derek needs to feint to set up that looping right hand, which is also very, very dangerous. So in round 8, Deontay is still throwing the right hand short, so he's made some effective adjustments. And Derek is maintaining his smart defense. How he's able to maintain that discipline and focus is really impressive. So both boxers are really impressive here. Now, Deontay hurts Chisora. I believe it was a backhand, and then again he explodes. And how did Derek Chisora absorb those punches? I just do not know. Anyway, Derek eventually does go down. And he goes down, the referee gives a count, and it's quite clear that Derek Chisora is hurt. He is badly hurt, but Derek is experienced, so he's got the poker face, but you could see that he is hurt. That extra weight, I think, is enabling him to absorb punches, but, every mortal man has their limit. Now, Deontay, he just casually walks over when the referee completes the count, or, when the referee gives him the 8 count and then resumes the fight to continue. Deontay just takes his time with no urgency and then measures And this seems to take ages. He says something to Derek, and it sounds like it's something that's complimentary. And then he throws this massive right hand. Derek is dazed, but is instinctively staying low, so he's still riding the punches. Now, Deontay lands a massive right hand, but Derek not only takes the punch, not only does he take the punch, he starts fighting back. And now we have this incredible exchange. And at this point, Derek is showing Rocky Marciano levels of bravery here. This is unbelievable entertainment, because a moment before you're thinking Derek Chisora is going to get knocked out brutally, and now he's starting to land punches and he's fighting back, and it's just really just a sensational round. So at the end of the round, think of this is turning into like a Rocky fight, and Deontay Wilder should have ended the fight. I don't know why he took so long. I would say in the next round, Deontay needs to start fast and maintain dominance now. He really needs to maintain dominance, pick up that jab, maintain dominance, and let the backhand go while maintaining defensive responsibilities. Derek, on the other hand, really needs to maintain his defensive responsibilities, keep low. Both boxers would benefit from the feints and the jabs. I think Derek needs to be defensively responsible, get that jab out there, which can set up those overhand rights and that vicious body attack. If possible, if he can get close, maybe stay close and start using his weight, that could be effective. So in round 9, Deontay lands another right hand. And Deontay now is finding his range with the right hands. He's shooting them short, but Derek is still low. So he's taking the punches, but he's just taking the power off the punches, or he's taking the majority of the power of the punches, but he's still taking the punches. And Derek is a warrior, incredible punch resistance. That extra weight gain is actually helping him absorb the power. Derek is now going to the ropes. Now, this is a dangerous strategy, and before the fight, I was always concerned with this strategy. It worked against Joe Joyce, but this is a dangerous strategy, and Deontay needs to capitalize here. He really needs to capitalize. Deontay is trying the right uppercut, and Chisora is trying, the southpaw position. He's trying that southpaw jab, and he needs to be very careful when he does this. He needs to be careful of the counter. Now, Derek is now getting momentum with the body attack. He's getting momentum, and Deontay is throwing the right hand short, which is good. I would say this: when they're in the center of the ring, Deontay Wilder should throw the punch short, but when Derek is on the ropes, he should punch through the target. He should take that risk. Now, at the end of the round, think of this. Deontay still needs to use the jab because these rounds are just close. They're very difficult to score. And he should try that right hand, left hand combination again. Try and throw some combinations. Derek needs to maintain that educated pressure. He needs to maintain his low sense of gravity, the head movement, the cross-arm defense, because any mistake in this fight will be over. If he can, Derek needs to set up the right hand with multiple feints. I think multiple feints could be effective here. If he gets on the inside, I think he needs to stay on the inside, put the head on the chest, maybe start ripping those left hooks to the body. Both fighters, I think, need to go through the phases of the attack, but at this point, they are both very, very, very tired. Now, in round 10, there's a subtle shift, and Deontay is starting to put his weight on his front foot or in the center, and this shows confidence. This is something that Lennox Lewis used to do. Now, Derek is still trying to use the ropes. Now, I'm scared when he's doing this, but he's actually utilizing this strategy effectively. And I feel that Deontay has two options when Derek is on the ropes. He needs to A, use the feint. He needs to use the feint in both scenarios, but punch through the target, or B, he needs to throw the punches to the temple. This is something that Lennox Lewis used to do. One of the reference points is when he fought Evander Holyfield, but he's got two options here, but he's not utilizing any of them. Now Derek pushes Deontay back to the ropes, and Derek again is using his weight advantage effectively here. And this is something that, if the slight criticism, I think, obviously the weight advantage has helped Derek absorb the punches, but when he gets in close, he needs to stay there and use that weight advantage and use the head into the chest and then rip the punches underneath. Now, a big right hand from Derek. Derek lands a big right hand, but Deontay, again, he takes it well. I mean, these are like knockout punches. Deontay has really surprised me with his punch resistance. And Deontay isn't riding any of the punches. At least Derek, he's low center of gravity, he's cross-arm defense, he's riding the punches. Deontay just takes the punches. So that, to me, is the shock element of this fight, is the fact that Deontay Wilder isn't riding the punches, but he's able to take these big shots. So at the end of the round, think of this. Derek, I think, is fighting really well here. He's using his weight, and the weight isn't compromising his foot speed. So clearly he's done the training, he's done the hard graft, he's prepared and he's ready. Wilder needs to keep shortening the right hand, use the feint, and I think he needs to punch in phases and use the jab. He also needs to negate the big right hand from Derek Chisora, either with hand placement, head movement, or with his feet using the half step, because that's becoming a problematic weapon. So going into round 11, Deontay now is trying to reintroduce the left hook, and he should have done more of this. I would have liked to have seen a jab, left hook, straight right, but now he's trying to introduce the left hook. And Deontay lands the backhand because he's throwing it short. So that adjustment has been crucial, and because he's throwing it short, this negates the counter right hand from Derek Chisora. Derek needs to keep the fight in the pocket, and when he's from long range, he needs to either use the feint or the double jab. But Deontay is finding the straight right. He's finding the straight right. Yes, Derek is riding it, but it's a scoring punch, and it's potentially a knockout punch. And this is the good thing that Deontay is doing. He's now showing diversity with the backhand. Sometimes he's throwing the right hand short, and then sometimes he's throwing it through the target. So that punch diversity is giving Derek more things to think about. But Derek, being the warrior that he is, he's finding that big right hand. And the problem that Deontay has here is that when Derek Chisora lands those big right hands, they look so impressive and they could definitely influence the judges. So if a round is close and Derek lands one or two of those big right hands, he could be taking the round. So Deontay needs to nullify the right hand for two reasons. Number one, because it could enable him to lose the rounds. But number two, every time Derek lands one of those big right hands, this increases the opportunity for him to get a knockdown or a knockout. So at the end of the round, think of this. Again, the diversity of the backhand is helping Deontay Wilder. Derek, I feel, needs to double the jab, maintain his intelligence defense, use the feint, and when he's on the inside, just explode. I think a double jab overhand right could be effective for Derek here. I really do. So we come to round 12, and it's been a fantastic fight. There's been loads of entertainment. There really has. A brilliant fight. Both of these guys have brought it all into the ring. Deontay is landing the right hand, and Derek is making that transition from orthodox to southpaw, trying to use that right jab and the right hook. Derek is landing some powerful jabs, and Derek is getting really rough on the inside, and this is exactly what he should be doing. Deontay, at a point now, is actually starting to take a dominant position. Derek, understandably, is tired, but Derek, being Derek, is just going for it. So this is a great round of a great fight. And, the round ends. The fight has been absolutely incredible. Both are just absolute warriors. They've given the crowd an amazing event. And when you talk about from Derek Chisora's perspective, he showed bravery of like a Rocky Marciano, a bravery of like an Evander Holyfield. And, when you think of Derek Chisora, yes, he was never a world champion, but that man has championship heart. He really, really does. And he can be so proud of that performance. Deontay Wilder is reckoned to be, if not the or one of the greatest knockout punchers of all time. And Derek just kept coming forward. He had absolutely no fear. And he fought an intelligent fight because he had the cross-arm defense, he had a low center of gravity, his feet were quick. So even though he was heavy, he still had quick feet, and he was able to close the distance, and he was able to absorb the punches, get his punches off, rip to the body. He was able to land the backhands. It was a great performance, I think, from Derek Chisora. Also, let's give Wilder some credit. Wilder showed some bravery. He took some massive right hands from Derek Chisora, which is surprising. If I had thought Derek Chisora was going to be able to land those right hands, I would have thought that Derek would have won by a knockout. Now, I did hear, I'm sure I heard some dialogue which suggested that Deontay Wilder may have broke his hand. And Deontay Wilder was punching viciously at times. He really, really was punching viciously. And I think he showed some good diversity on the right hand. I think definitely he should have used the jab more. He definitely should have used the jab more. But like I said, both warriors, they really brought it, and it was a great, entertaining fight. Now, the decision comes. I thought it was a close fight, but some people thought that Deontay clearly won. I thought it was close, but Deontay gets a decision. But I felt that both fighters won tonight. Like I said, Derek, he showed bravery, so much levels of bravery. He showed boxing intelligence, and he stood up to the power of one of the greatest punchers of all time. And I think with that being said, we should be thankful and very proud of Derek Chisora's contribution to boxing. So think of this. Derek Chisora brought boxing intelligence and heart. He really put Deontay Wilder in some difficult and uncomfortable positions. Derek Chisora entertained the crowd, and he showed unbelievable punch resistance. Understandably, at the end of the fight, I sensed that Derek was emotional at the end, understandably. And this was a great fight. In this fight, the marketing was friendly. But the encounter was brutal. If Derek does close the curtain on his career, if he does close that curtain, he can be very proud of that performance. Like I said, in round 8, it was Evander Holyfield, Rocky Marciano levels of bravery to survive that brutal, brutal situation in round 8. Derek Chisora gave everything. He gave absolutely everything, and no one could ask for more. So that's the end of the video. Now I'm trying to build a digital boxing community. That means I'm interested in your comments, I'm interested in your questions, and I'm interested in your observations. Now, if you want to support the channel, simply like and subscribe. And if you want to watch more content, then simply click here or click here. As always, thanks for your time. It is much appreciated. Peace.